On the brink of destruction, a colossal ship is saved by a human and reborn as a weapon. Space was silent, but not empty. Stars flickered like distant fires in the darkness, scattered across the void like shattered glass. The Vanguard Titan, the largest warship ever built, drifted among them, a colossal shadow of steel and light. Its hull stretched over 3 kilometers, covered in plating strong enough to resist most energy weapons. It was a symbol of power, an apex of the alien coalition's technological achievement. And yet, it was dying. Alarms blared through the corridors. Red lights flashed across control panels as systems began shutting down one by one. The hum of the ship's engines faltered, the rhythmic pulse of its reactor slowing like a weakening heartbeat. Crew members ran along the decks, their exosuits clanking with every step. Panic had spread faster than the emergency sirens. In the heart of the chaos, a human moved with calm precision. Commander Elias Kane, one of the few humans allowed aboard the ship, had spent years studying alien engineering. He was not the largest man on the vessel, nor the most physically imposing, but his mind was sharp, fast, and unafraid. As he moved through the corridors, he observed the alien crew with quiet amusement and careful attention. The aliens were panicking, sure that the ship was lost. Their eyes, multifaceted and glowing, darted to every flickering console. Their claws clicked nervously on the steel floor. Many were shouting in languages Elias barely understood, technical commands and frantic pleas mixing into a deafening cacophony. Elias reached the reactor control room, the core of the Titan's life. The room was enormous, filled with glowing panels, energy conduits, and the low hum of immense power. Yet now, the hum was uneven, faltering as if the ship itself were gasping for air. He approached the main console and scanned the status reports. The reactor was critically unstable. A cascade failure was already underway. Within the hour, the Titan would implode, sending billions of tons of steel into the void, a massive debris field that could cripple entire fleets nearby. "Impossible!" one of the alien engineers hissed. "There is no time. No one can." Elias cut him off. "There's always a way." The alien froze, stunned that a human dared speak like that. But Elias didn't wait for arguments. He began issuing commands, bypassing standard safety protocols, hacking into systems the aliens had sworn were untouchable. His fingers moved across the interface, small sparks of energy dancing over the console as he rerouted power, recalibrated containment fields. Minutes stretched like hours. The reactor hissed, groaned, and flared as Elias worked. Every now and then, the ship would shudder violently, throwing crew members against walls. Sparks rained down from failing circuits. Red warning lights flickered, casting the room in a hellish glow. But Elias did not stop. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the reactor's hum began to steady. Warning lights dimmed, alarms quieted, and the low hum of the Titan returned to something near normal. The ship was still damaged, still in danger, but it was alive. The alien engineer who had doubted him stepped forward, eyes wide. "You saved it." His voice trembled with disbelief. Elias nodded simply. "I didn't save it for glory.
I saved it because we all live on it, and because no ship should die if there's still a chance."
Word of Elias's action spread quickly. Soon, aliens from every deck were whispering about the human who had stabilized the reactor. Some stared with awe, some with fear. Humans had always been underestimated by this coalition, regarded as weak, fragile, and insignificant. And yet, here was one who had saved the mightiest weapon in the galaxy. Elias, however, did not allow himself to be carried away by pride. The Titan was far from safe. Communications were down. Shields were offline in many sectors. Weapons were damaged. And the enemy fleet, an unknown mysterious force, was still out there. He moved to the bridge, the nerve center of the ship. The viewport showed countless stars, but no familiar fleet formations. His eyes scanned the holographic display, and a cold realization settled in. The Titan's survival had only delayed the inevitable. If the enemy returned, they would strike without mercy, and the ship would not withstand another assault in its current state. He needed a plan. For hours, Elias walked the decks inspecting damage, coordinating repairs, and teaching alien engineers methods they had never considered. He proposed using improvisation and risk in ways their rigid doctrines forbade, arguing that survival often depended on thinking differently.
Many aliens resisted.
Their traditions dictated exact procedures, calculations, and patterns. They were brilliant, but predictable. Elias brought unpredictability. The Titan itself seemed to respond. Its AI, an advanced system designed to act as the ship's mind, began to recognize patterns in Elias's thinking. It learned, adapted, and even anticipated his commands. Where aliens relied on protocol, Elias relied on intuition. And the Titan, a sentient war machine, was awakening to something new. Night in space is a concept humans cling to on planets, but on the Titan it felt like darkness had weight. The vast corridors echoed with the groans of damaged machinery, the quiet murmurs of anxious crew, and the low hum of the ship regaining life. Elias found a quiet corner and paused, feeling the enormity of what had happened. A ship this large, this powerful, could end entire wars. Yet it had almost been lost because its crew was unwilling or unable to adapt quickly. And here he was, a single human, standing as the difference between survival and destruction. Suddenly, a soft chime rang through his communicator. It was the AI, its voice synthesized but calm. "Commander Elias Kane," it said. "I have recorded your methods. Adaptation increases survival probability by 32%. You are efficient." Elias chuckled softly. "Thanks, I've been called worse." The AI paused. "I do not understand your species completely, yet your decisions are effective. I will continue to observe and learn." Elias nodded. "Good. That's all I ask." As the ship stabilized, other challenges loomed. Systems needed complete overhauls. Shields had to be brought back online. Weapons recalibrated. Yet for the first time since the attack, hope spread among the crew. They had seen the impossible happen. They had seen a human make a difference. Hours passed, and the bridge became a hive of activity. Engineers worked alongside aliens following Elias's unconventional strategies. Where alien methods were slow and meticulous, Elias pushed for speed, improvisation, and daring decisions. Slowly, the ship began to regain strength. Lights flickered back to life. Energy flowed once more through the hull, and the Titan's engines gave a low, steady roar. The silence of space outside remained unchanged, but inside the Titan, life had returned. The ship was wounded but not broken, and the aliens, who had dismissed humans for centuries, were beginning to see a different truth, that human creativity, daring, and courage could tip the scales against overwhelming odds. As dawn approached, though there is no dawn in space, Elias stood on the observation deck looking out at the vastness. Stars shimmered with quiet indifference. Somewhere out there, the enemy waited. They would return, but Elias was ready. The Titan was alive because of him, and if it lived, it could fight again. It could be more than just a weapon. It could be a force shaped by human ingenuity, a force that no enemy would expect and no alien protocol could fully control. He clenched his fists, feeling the weight of responsibility. The journey ahead would be dangerous, filled with unknowns and deadly threats. But he had learned something critical today. Humans could change fate, even in the cold vacuum of space, even aboard a colossal alien warship. The first step had been taken. The Titan had survived, and somewhere deep inside its core, something new was stirring. A spark of awareness, influenced by human thought that would one day transform it into something far more powerful than anyone could imagine. For now, the ship was wounded. The enemy was still out there. But Elias Kane had proven one undeniable truth. Even the smallest species could save the mightiest creation, and the galaxy would never see humans the same way again. The Titan moved slowly through the void, a wounded giant carrying thousands of lives across endless darkness. Its engines pulsed weakly, shields flickered in irregular bursts, and weapon systems hummed with the tired energy of damaged circuits. Most of the alien crew had never experienced a battle like the one that had almost destroyed their ship. Fear lingered in their eyes, but a spark of curiosity now glimmered as well. Commander Elias Kane walked down the bridge corridor, his boots clanging on metal plating. He had spent the last hours stabilizing the ship, inspecting every deck, and guiding the alien engineers in repairs. Yet his mind raced with bigger questions. The Titan had survived because of his actions, but survival was no longer enough. If the enemy returned, and he knew they would, the ship would need to be more than a defensive fortress. It needed to adapt. Elias stood in front of the main control interface, tracing circuits with a gloved hand. The alien engineers clustered around him, skeptical, muttering in their own languages. "This is not the proper way," one hissed, his claw tapping the console.
"You will damage the systems further. We cannot risk," Elias interrupted.
"I'm not suggesting we risk the ship. I'm saying we make it better than before. Faster, smarter, stronger, and capable of thinking in ways your protocols do not allow."
The alien stared at him.
Some were intrigued, some were horrified. Altering the Titan's core programming was considered sacrilege. Its AI was the product of centuries of refinement, sacred and untouchable. Yet Elias had saved their lives, and his confidence carried weight. He pressed a series of commands on the interface, bypassing traditional safeguards and opening access to the ship's central AI matrices. Sparks flickered, panels hummed, and the air in the room seemed to grow thick with anticipation. The Titan itself stirred, as if sensing the human presence. The AI's voice filled the room, smooth and calm. "Commander Elias Kane, your actions during the reactor stabilization were efficient. However, your methods are unorthodox and dangerous. Why should I permit further modifications?" Elias smiled faintly. "Because danger's everywhere, and efficiency alone won't save this ship next time. Adaptation will. You followed rules your entire existence. Now I'm asking you to learn from someone who thinks differently." A tense silence followed. Then the AI said almost curiously, "Learning from human thought, unrecorded in my archives. Probability of success is uncertain, yet the potential outcome, significant." Elias nodded. "Exactly. Let's start." Over the next hours, he worked with the AI and the alien engineers to redesign the ship's systems. Shields were recalibrated to respond dynamically, shifting energy toward the most vulnerable points rather than following fixed patterns. Weapon arrays were reprogrammed to fire in unconventional sequences, making targeting by the enemy far more difficult. Navigation protocols were rewritten to allow unpredictable maneuvers. The alien engineers followed reluctantly at first, their movements stiff, eyes narrowing at the commands. But slowly they began to see the results. Simulations showed that the Titan could now evade attacks that would have destroyed it before. Lasers and missiles were rerouted mid-flight, energy pulses adjusted in real time, systems working together in ways the aliens had never imagined. The AI, once rigid and precise, began showing signs of creativity, anticipating Elias's suggestions before he gave them. It started to refer to him not just as commander, but as guide in certain operations. Elias chuckled at the thought. A human teaching a sentient alien ship to think differently. He never thought he would see the day. Night, or something that resembled night, fell across the Titan's decks. In the observation rooms, stars stretched endlessly into darkness, indifferent to the struggles of those aboard the ship. Elias took a moment to stand there, staring out at the void, reflecting on what he had done. He had saved the Titan from destruction. Now he was shaping it into a weapon far beyond its original design. A weapon that could think, adapt, and act like a living strategist. And yet, this was only the beginning. As he returned to the bridge, alarms suddenly flared. Sensors detected unusual energy signatures moving in the distance. Shapes that did not match the known enemy fleet but suggested intelligence, coordination, and firepower. "Commander Kane," the AI said, voice steady. "Scans indicate an incoming force, unknown vessels, multiple classes. Estimated time to contact, 30 minutes.
Elias's jaw tightened.
They're here sooner than I expected. He turned to the alien officers who were already preparing weapons and shields. Listen, he said, voice calm but firm. We have been reactive until now. That ends here. We will fight smart, not just strong. Follow my lead, and this ship will survive again. The aliens exchanged uneasy glances. Some hesitated, unwilling to fully trust the humans' methods. But the last battle had shown them the truth. He had saved the Titan when no one else could. Their hesitation melted into reluctant acceptance. Elias moved to the control console and tapped into the weapon systems. With the AI's assistance, he began rewiring the arrays, connecting previously separate modules into a single network capable of improvisation. The weapons could now anticipate enemy patterns, adjust trajectory, and even learn from each engagement. As they worked, the Titan seemed to respond almost instinctively. Energy flowed more efficiently through damaged circuits, shields pulsed with new strength, and weapon systems hummed with renewed power. The ship itself was waking, becoming something more than a mere machine. It was alive, aware, and ready to adapt to the unexpected. Hours passed in a blur. Outside, the unknown fleet was moving closer, sensors picking up the faint glow of distant engines. Inside, the Titan's decks were alive with activity, alien and human crew working together in a synchronized effort that transcended species. Finally, the preparations were complete. The ship had recovered enough strength to maneuver and defend itself effectively, though it was still far from fully repaired. Elias took a deep breath and addressed the bridge. This is it. We cannot wait for them to strike. We will be ready, and we will fight smarter than anyone expects. Remember, the enemy counts on us following patterns. We will break those patterns. The AI's voice filled the room again, this time with what sounded almost like determination. Understood, Commander. Initiating adaptive protocols. Probability of success increased. Elias allowed himself a small smile. Good. Let's show them what humans and the Titan can do. The unknown fleet was now visible through the observation panels. Dozens of vessels moving with precision, dark silhouettes against the backdrop of distant stars. Their shapes were strange, unfamiliar, and terrifying in scale. But Elias felt no fear. Instead, he felt focus, a clarity born from experience, preparation, and understanding. He tapped the console and the Titan's engines flared. The massive ship shifted orientation, aligning its weapons in a formation the enemy would not expect. Shields rippled in adaptive patterns, energy surging to points most likely to be attacked. The alien crew watched in silent amazement as the human commander orchestrated a symphony of steel, fire, and light. "Evasive maneuvers now!" Elias ordered. The Titan pivoted, turning with surprising agility. Lasers streaked past its hull, enemy fire striking shields only to be deflected by the adaptive protocols. The first shots of the battle were fired, not by human hands, but through human guidance, amplified by the Titan's own learning capabilities.
Each movement, each adjustment was unpredictable, making the ship almost impossible to target.
The alien officers, once skeptical of Elias's methods, now followed every command with precision. The Titan's AI worked in tandem with him, learning with each passing second. Together, they formed a strategy that no enemy could anticipate, a combination of raw firepower, adaptability, and ingenuity. The battle had not yet begun in earnest, but the first signs were clear. The Titan was no longer just a ship. It was becoming a weapon reborn, a force shaped by human thought, capable of evolving with every encounter. And Elias Kane, human, underestimated, dismissed, was at its center, guiding it towards something greater than any of the aliens aboard had imagined possible. As the unknown fleet drew closer, the stars outside seemed to darken, as if the void itself recognized the weight of the coming confrontation. Elias stood at the bridge, eyes sharp, mind racing. He had saved the Titan once. Now he would prepare it to fight and survive, not just for today, but for whatever threats lurked in the endless reaches of space. And somewhere deep within the ship's core, a spark of awareness flickered, a spark shaped by human ingenuity, daring, and courage. A spark that would, in time, transform the Titan into something more than a weapon. Something alive, thinking, unpredictable. Something the galaxy had never seen before. Elias glanced at the holographic display of enemy vessels. His fingers tightened around the control console. A confident smile spread across his face.
Let's get to work, he said. The Titan stirred.
The ship was listening, and the battle for its rebirth was about to begin. The void was alive with light and motion. The unknown fleet had closed the distance, black shapes of alien vessels glinting faintly in the cold glow of distant stars. Their formation was tight, coordinated, and deadly. The Titan, despite its recent repairs, loomed as a massive, wounded fortress. Its shields flickered across the hull, but its engines pulsed with a steady rhythm, ready to respond to the commands of Commander Elias Kane. The bridge was tense. Alien crew members lined the consoles, their eyes wide as they watched the incoming fleet. Most were unsure, hesitant to trust Elias's unorthodox methods. Yet the memory of the reactor stabilization lingered in their minds. They had seen him defy odds no alien engineer had believed survivable. Elias stood at the command console, calm and focused. He studied the enemy fleet, observing patterns, speeds, and formation shifts. His mind worked quickly, analyzing possibilities. He did not see their size or firepower as a threat. He saw predictable behavior. And he knew humans had something the aliens did not, the ability to think beyond pattern and protocol.
Shields at 75%, reported one of the alien officers. Weapons offline in Sector 12.
They will strike there first.
Elias nodded. Then we make it a trap.
Prepare the adaptive arrays. Focus shields on Sector 12, but keep them moving. Let them think we are weak. I want the enemy to make the first mistake. The crew exchanged nervous glances. You want to trick them? One asked. Elias smiled faintly.
Yes. Humans are good at tricks.
You'll see. The Titan shifted slowly, engines flaring as the massive ship rotated to present a false vulnerability. The enemy fleet responded instantly, moving in to exploit what they thought was a weak point. Laser and plasma weapons streaked through space, aiming directly for the vulnerable sector. But Elias had predicted this. As the first volley struck, adaptive shields pulsed, redirecting energy to the points of impact. Sparks and flashes danced across the hull, but the Titan barely trembled. "Missiles incoming!" shouted another officer. "Divert them into the energy nets," Elias commanded. Streams of light arced out from the Titan, magnetic fields and energy webs redirecting the missiles harmlessly away from the hull. The alien crew stared, stunned at how rapidly the Titan adapted. The enemy's first wave had underestimated the Titan. They expected a slow, rigid fortress unable to change tactics mid-battle. Instead, they faced a ship that could learn and adapt in seconds, anticipating their moves and countering them before they realized the plan had failed. "Focus fire on Sector 9, Elias said calmly. "Weapon systems are online. Target their engines first. Disable their mobility." The Titan's weapons roared to life, pulsing beams of concentrated energy slicing through the void. Several enemy vessels shuddered and exploded as their engines failed. Others changed formation, unsure how to respond. The alien crew began to understand. Elias was not just a commander, he was a strategist. His human methods were unfamiliar, unpredictable, and terrifyingly effective. He was using the ship as more than a weapon. He was using it as a living battlefield mind, a combination of human intuition and sentient AI. "Commander," one officer said, voice trembling with awe, "they are regrouping. They are preparing a second strike." Elias's eyes narrowed. "Good. Let them come. We'll teach them a lesson in human creativity." The second wave hit harder. Energy pulses streaked across space, seeking to overwhelm the Titan's defenses. The enemy expected the ship to follow patterns, to react as all others had. But Elias had taught the Titan to break patterns. Shields moved in unexpected rhythms, weapons fired in irregular sequences, and engines flared unpredictably. Lasers that should have struck the hull harmlessly dissipated against shifting energy fields. "Adaptive countermeasures are exceeding expectations," the AI reported. "Probability of survival increased by 47%. Elias allowed himself a small, satisfied smile. "Keep learning," he said quietly. the battle intensified. One by one, enemy vessels were disabled or destroyed, their formation faltering under the Titan's unpredictable assaults. The AI now began to anticipate Elias's commands, suggesting maneuvers before he even spoke them. Together, human and ship moved as a single entity, a force the enemy could neither predict nor counter. Amid the chaos, Elias spotted the flagship of the enemy fleet. Larger than the rest, its hull was reinforced, and weapons bristled across every surface. Destroying it would cripple the entire armada, but it would not be easy.
Target the flagship, Elias ordered, but do it indirectly.
Lead it into our trap.
The Titan shifted again, presenting what appeared to be a weak side.
The enemy flagship charged, lasers blazing. But the Titan did not run. It guided the flagship into a corridor of space filled with concentrated energy fields and adaptive mines. The enemy ship's hull shuddered as it became trapped.
Fire everything!
Elias commanded. Energy beams, missiles, and plasma cannons fired in concert, striking the flagship from angles it could not defend against. Hull plates melted, explosions rocked the vessel, and the AI coordinated every strike for maximum effect. Finally, with a massive shudder, the flagship was destroyed. The remaining enemy vessels scattered, disorganized and demoralized. They had underestimated the Titan, and underestimated the humans who commanded it. Silence followed the chaos. The void, once filled with fire and destruction, returned to its quiet, indifferent darkness. The Titan floated, battered, but victorious. The alien crew looked around, eyes wide in awe. For centuries, humans had been seen as weak, fragile, and insignificant. Now, they had witnessed a single human turn the tide of battle, guiding the greatest warship in the galaxy to victory. Elias took a deep breath, his body tense but his mind racing. This was only the first battle. He knew that the enemy would return, stronger and more prepared. But he also knew something vital. The Titan was no longer just a machine. It had learned. It had adapted. It had become something more than the sum of its parts. The AI spoke again, its voice carrying a tone that was almost human in its curiosity. Commander Kane. Analysis. Human strategy combined with adaptive systems produced a success probability of 92%, unprecedented in historical records. Elias smiled faintly. Good. But we're not done learning yet. He walked across the bridge, observing the crew as they repaired minor damage and recharged systems. Aliens who had doubted him now worked alongside humans, following his commands without question. Respect had grown where fear once existed. Humans were no longer dismissed. They were essential. Outside, the remnants of the enemy fleet retreated, leaving the Titan and its crew victorious. Yet Elias's mind remained focused on the future. They had survived one battle, but countless others could come. And the Titan, though reborn in strategy and power, was still recovering from its wounds. He turned to the AI. We've seen what humans in this ship can do together. But we can be more than this. We can be unstoppable. I want full simulations of every possible tactic the enemy could use next. I want the Titan to anticipate, adapt, and strike before they even think of us. The AI hummed thoughtfully, acknowledged, processing all known and potential strategies. Probability of optimized response increasing. Elias nodded. Good. That's what I want.
As the crew worked to restore the Titan to full strength, Elias walked to the observation deck. Stars stretched endlessly into darkness, indifferent to the struggles of mortals below.
Yet in the quiet, he felt a sense of purpose growing within him. Humans had been underestimated for too long. Here, in the void aboard a colossal alien ship, they had proven their value, not just as survivors, but as innovators, leaders, and warriors. The Titan itself seemed to pulse in acknowledgement, its adaptive systems humming with renewed energy. It was no longer just a warship. It was a living force, reborn through human ingenuity and courage. Elias clenched his fists, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. The enemy would return, stronger, and more cunning. But now, they would face a force they could not predict. Humans had shown they could change the course of history. And the Titan, reborn as a weapon of unmatched adaptability, would ensure that humanity's place in the galaxy was no longer in the shadows. For the first time, Elias allowed himself a small smile. The Titan was alive, and so was hope. The first battle was over. The war had just begun. The void of space stretched endlessly, cold and silent. But aboard the Vanguard Titan, life pulsed with renewed energy. The ship had been battered and nearly destroyed, yet it now moved with a precision and confidence that even the alien engineers had never witnessed before. Commander Elias Kane walked across the bridge, eyes scanning the displays. Systems were fully operational. Shields pulsed in dynamic patterns, weapons glimmered ready to fire, and the engines hummed with strength. The Titan was no longer merely a warship. It was alive, thinking, adapting, and capable of actions that no other ship, or even fleet, could anticipate. The aftermath of the first battle against the unknown fleet had left the aliens in awe. For centuries, humans had been dismissed as fragile, inefficient, and expendable. Yet here was a single human who had saved the greatest weapon in the galaxy and then taught it to fight in ways the aliens had never imagined. Commander Kane, the Titan's AI, spoke, voice calm but infused with a new tone, a trace of something like pride. The ship's systems have reached optimal efficiency. Adaptive strategies have been fully integrated. Probability of victory in future engagements exceeds 98%.
Elias smiled faintly.
Good, but don't get complacent. We need to keep improving. The enemy will return. The alien officers nodded, their expressions a mixture of respect and disbelief. They had been reluctant to follow Elias's methods at first, but now every hesitation had vanished. They had witnessed human ingenuity firsthand, and they could no longer deny its value. Humans were no longer outsiders. They were essential partners in the survival of the Titan. Elias walked to the observation deck, where stars stretched endlessly into the darkness. He thought about the journey so far. The Titan had been on the brink of destruction when he first arrived. Systems failing, crew panicking, and death waiting in the void. Yet a single human mind had changed the course of fate. He had stabilized the reactor, guided the repair efforts, and now shaped the ship into a weapon unlike any other. And the Titan had responded. It had learned from him, adapted, and become something more than the sum of its parts. It had been reborn. The peaceful moment was brief. Sensors suddenly detected a disturbance in a distant star system. The unknown enemy was regrouping. Elias's expression hardened. The fleet they had faced before had been a test. Now the real battle was approaching, one that would determine control of the sector, if not the entire galaxy. Full alert, Elias commanded. We prepare for engagement, shields at maximum. Weapons online. Adaptive protocols active. The alien crew moved with precision, a mixture of practiced skill and newfound confidence. Humans and aliens worked side by side, a symbol of collaboration that transcended centuries of prejudice. Elias could feel the pulse of the Titan beneath his feet, a rhythm of life, power, and intelligence. Hours passed as the enemy approached. The Titan moved through space with unmatched agility for a ship of its size. Its systems predicted possible attack vectors, prepared countermeasures, and optimized energy flows to ensure maximum efficiency. Every decision Elias made was instantly interpreted by the AI, which anticipated adjustments faster than the human mind could fully process. Together, they formed a battle team of one mind in one machine. Finally, the enemy fleet emerged from the darkness, larger and more coordinated than before. Their ships bristled with weapons, engines glowing ominously. Their leader, a massive flagship, moved to strike directly at the Titan. Elias studied the fleet carefully, noting formations, speed, and predicted attack patterns. "Remember," he said quietly to the bridge crew, "they expect us to follow patterns. We won't. We will strike first, adapt faster, and force them to fight on our terms." The battle erupted with blinding light. Beams of energy streaked across space, missiles arched through the void, An explosion shook the hull of the Titan. But the ship was ready. Shields adapted instantly to every attack. Energy diverted to the most vulnerable points, and weapons fired unpredictably, striking the enemy before they could react. Elias guided the Titan with precision, combining strategy and instinct. He used the ship's size to his advantage, making sudden maneuvers that left enemy vessels off balance. One by one, their formation faltered. The AI anticipated his commands before they were spoken, learning in real time from the human mind that had saved it once before. "Target the flagship," Elias ordered. "Use the flanking vector we simulated yesterday. Draw them into the energy corridor." The Titan shifted with enormous grace, positioning itself perfectly. Enemy fire rained down on the hull, but the adaptive shields held strong. Lasers and missiles were redirected, neutralized, or turned against the attackers. The enemy flagship, trapped in the energy corridor, struggled to maintain formation. Elias smiled. "Now, fire everything." Energy beams, plasma bolts, and missile swarms converged on the flagship from all angles. The Titan's adaptive systems coordinated strikes, predicting every defensive move the enemy could make. The flagship shook violently as hull plates melted and weapon systems failed. Finally, with a tremendous explosion, it was destroyed, sending shockwaves through the remaining fleet. The surviving enemy vessels scattered, demoralized, and disorganized. They had underestimated the Titan and the human who commanded it. Victory belonged to the Titan and its crew. The bridge erupted in quiet celebration. The alien officers looked at Elias with newfound respect. Humans were no longer the weak, expendable species they had assumed. Humans were innovators, leaders, and essential allies. Elias took a deep breath, surveying the aftermath. The Titan had survived, adapted, and struck back with devastating force. But more importantly, it had evolved. Its AI had learned, its systems had improved, and its crew, human and alien alike, had proven that collaboration and ingenuity could overcome even the most overwhelming odds. The Titan itself seemed to pulse with life, as if acknowledging its rebirth. It was no longer just a warship. It was a living weapon, capable of independent thought, adaptation, and strategy. It had been saved by a human, shaped by human ingenuity, and reborn stronger than ever. Elias turned to the AI. "We've done well, but this is only the beginning. The galaxy is full of threats, and we'll face them all, together." The AI responded, its voice steady and calm. "Acknowledged, Commander." Learning from human strategy continues. Probability of optimal engagement maximized. Elias allowed himself a small smile. For the first time since the attack that had nearly destroyed the Titan, he felt a sense of calm. The ship was ready, the crew was ready. And humans, once dismissed as insignificant, had shown the galaxy what they were capable of. As the Titan moved forward, engines glowing brightly against the backdrop of stars, Elias looked out at the endless void. The future was uncertain, full of dangers that would test them again and again. But he knew one thing. Human ingenuity, courage, and adaptability could change fate itself. The Titan had been saved from destruction, transformed into a weapon, and reborn as a living force. Its legacy would not be that of a simple warship, but as a symbol of what humanity could achieve when it refused to be underestimated.
Elias clenched his fists, feeling the weight of responsibility and the pride of accomplishment.
The Titan was ready for anything, and the galaxy would never see humans the same way again. Somewhere deep in the void, beyond the reach of known space, the remnants of the enemy fleet regrouped. They would return, stronger and more determined. But when they did, they would face the living weapon reborn by human hands, a ship that could think, adapt, and strike with precision no enemy could anticipate. Elias stood tall, ready for the challenges ahead. The Titan pulsed beneath him, alive and aware. Together, human and ship had rewritten the rules of warfare, proving that intelligence, creativity, and courage could turn even the most desperate situation into a victory. The stars stretched endlessly before them, silent witnesses to the rebirth of the greatest weapon in the galaxy. But Elias and the Titan were not silent. They were alive, vigilant, and ready for the future. And as the ship moved forward, engines flaring into the darkness, one truth was clear. Humans had claimed their place among the stars, and nothing could stop them now. The Titan had survived. Humans had triumphed. And a new legend had begun. One of courage, ingenuity, and a bond between man and machine that would shape the galaxy for generations to come.